I feel like Spirit's got something to say. I'm going to be talking about a topic that I don't normally talk about publicly. So I'm kind of like excited, nervous. Is there a word in English like excitus?
Or just made it. I think
nervited might be it.
Yeah. I feel like Spirit's got something.
Exhilarated. That's a good one. Yeah. I'm excited, but I don't normally say this, but I think it's really cool. So we'll see what you guys think.
I love it. All right, well, we are streaming and ready. We're going to let a couple more people in. Hello, welcome everyone. This is a Tarot Unicorns and Coffee meetup event. We are streaming live onto YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube for some reason, I don't know how you would have found the video so quickly, but we do not watch comments on YouTube while we are in the live Zoom meeting, just to let you know. Okay, so my name is Valerie Lewis. I am the head goddess in charge of Tarot Unicorns and Coffee, and my special guest, astrologer Robin Poole. Robin, wave to the people, is here today.
I want to be your holiday elf today. Can I be a holiday elf?
You can be my holiday elf today.
I want to be Valerie. Somehow I was struck by the urge to be your holiday elf.
I love it. I love it. Okay, and this is our full moon in Gemini celebration. We like to come together to celebrate these moon phases. We call them celebrations instead of ceremonies or rituals because that's how I roll, because that's what I want to call them. But because when we started this, it was just a way to get to know these energies and talk about these energies. We added rituals in, and it's not really a ceremony. It's more a coming together to discuss these energies and figure out how they can play into our lives. So the way these events run is I start out giving a intermediate explanation of these. See, I pumped myself up, y'all. I used to say beginner. Intermediate explanation of full moon energies and Gemini energies and a couple other things that are going on astrologically during this next full moon. That, by the way, happens on Saturday. We celebrate early to give you time to collect your notes and collect your knowledge and collect your things if you decide to do a ritual. So the full moon is not until Saturday. But I start off with my presentation on the energies. Then I turn it over to Robin, who is a bona fide, deep digging, insightful astrologer. And she gives a more in-depth, deeper look at the energies that are going on astrologically. And then it comes back to me and I share some rituals that you may or may not want to, y'all don't want to. I share some rituals that y'all are going to love, and you're gonna have something to work with. You get to pick and choose which ones work for you. And then again, I turn it over to Robin, and Robin gives you a more deep dive on what rituals and things you can use to pull these energies into your life in a practical way, so that you're not just learning about them and knowing about them, but so that you're actually finding ways to work with them in your life. So that's how we roll with these events. I'm going to go over two guidelines. We have two guidelines for all Tarot Unicorn and Coffee events. The first one is love and light always. Hold yourself in love and light, and hold everyone else who comes together for this meeting in love and light. The second one is don't start no shit, won't be no shit. Y'all know the rules. That's how we roll. All right. We are going to kick this off by everyone taking a deep breath, and I'm going to turn it over to Robin, and she's going to ground us and get us all connected.
Okay, so I invite you to join me in whatever way feels comfortable for you and just relaxing for a moment. Taking some deep breaths and letting any tension or stress or distractions fall away from you. You can close your eyes if you like, roll your shoulders and neck a little, wherever it is that you tend to hold your stress. You can put a little metaphorical box next to your feet or a basket if you feel like you might need some of these worries or concerns after the event, like there's a to-do list or whatever. But for the moment, let's just let that fall away. And then I invite you to center or ground however is comfortable for you. So you could center on a flame in your heart. You could feel roots growing down through your feet into the floor, down into Mother Earth. You could let your energy ride out horizontally, take off any limitations if you've been constricting your aura or you're holding yourself in, free yourself from any mental or emotional chains or restrictions. Or you could ground up into the stars and let your energy fly up to whatever soul family you have out there, or whatever cosmic connection you might be feeling. Take a moment here to settle into your own happy, productive, peaceful, energetic space, whatever that means for you. If there's a spirit animal or a power animal or an actual animal or a stuffed animal that you want to bring in with you. I'm going to grab my kitty. Where's my kitty? My stuffed kitty, by the way, not an actual kitty. My stuffed kitty, right? Whatever it is that you need to feel grounded. And then I want to set our intentions. This is my intention. You're welcome to set your own, but my intention is that we all come away from this with the information and the energetic download. That's what we really need for our own highest good. That we won't stress about things that don't make sense or stuff that doesn't resonate, but that we'll become experts at really picking out, according to our own intuition and our own higher self and our own spiritual connection, what is really going to propel us in this group to our next stage, help us deal with whatever we're dealing with, solve the problem that we don't know is coming, or just help us grow in a way that's going to help us enjoy our lives even more. And then I'd like to invite you to make a gentle, energetic connection with the other people in the group. And so that we can provide a safe and welcoming and warm space where everybody feels like they can express themselves, the good, the challenging, the socially acceptable, the not so socially acceptable, the honest. You know, we want to stay in love and light, but we also want to be able to say, hey, I'm struggling with such and such. Does anybody have any support or ideas? And then knowing that when our event ends, we're all going to separate energetically, and we won't leave carrying with us any icky energies from somebody else or things that don't belong to us or any energetic cords or connections. I want to feel like it's safe for us to connect here and then to separate and to go on our own ways. And I just want to say thank you to any positive energies or spirits or guides or animals that are surrounding us that can help us today to have a great experience. And I want to set an energetic protection to keep out any sort of negative energies that might be there but are not really welcome in our space here. And let's all just take a moment. I'll let you guys add any intentions that you want to add to support your own desires for today. What are you hoping to get out of this? How do you want to feel at the end? And I want to thank Valerie, as always, for scheduling all of this and managing everything and having a meetup and giving us a space to enjoy being part of the herd, enjoy being part of the community, enjoy the support that we give each other. And just say thank you to Spirit for letting us all be here today and having all of our electronics work. And then, yeah, when you're ready, you can open your eyes and join us and come back in, and we will get going.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Robin. That was wonderful. All right. Well, we are going to jump right into it. As I mentioned, there's a little bit of a problem with me accessing my notes, so we may be going back and forth, but let's just go ahead and get started with the screen share. And so this, what I'll be presenting is, we're first going to talk about the energies that are present, just what they are, getting to know them a little bit better. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen. Yes, yay, all right. So full moon in Gemini, the full moon in Gemini actually takes place on December 18th, as we mentioned previously. I want to stop and tell you that if you didn't see in the notes of the event, which were updated recently earlier this week, I want you to be sure to download your free copy of a full moon worksheet that I worked out for this event and for any full moon, actually. The link is there on the screen, but I'm also going to drop it in the chat right now if you want to go grab that and work along. It's PDF format, so you may be able to work along right on your laptop or computer or print it off. All right, did I talk long enough? Did I stall long enough so y'all can get a chance to go look at that? All right, let's get into it. So
Valerie, this is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my gosh, look at it. It's got symbols and beautiful text. Wow. All right, sorry, by how gorgeous this is.
Yay, glad you
Okay,
like
I'm going to mute myself now.
it. All right, so let's talk, we're going to start with talking about full moon energies. So we talk about full moon energies. And I love this quote. I've used it before. Cosmically speaking, the full moon is the time of the month where the energy peaks and then releases like a cosmic sigh. I just love that quote. That's from Natalie Laveau, I believe is how you say her name. So a cosmic sigh, one of the easiest ways to think of the full moon. But let's talk about a little bit more about it. Full moons are times when the moon is full. It's at its fullest, brightest illumination, just like your things, the intentions that you set under the new moon when it was dark and it was a clean slate and you wrote out what you wanted to happen. They should have grown with the moon to culmination, to fruition, to manifestation. Now you should be witnessing them and experiencing them. So as you have these full manifestations, hopefully, this full moon energy is a time to wrap things up, to get things all finished, cross things off your list, figure out what worked for you, what didn't. It's a time to celebrate your accomplishments. So celebrate those things that you did manifest, those projects that you did work hard on and that you did get finished up. It's also a time to review and reflect. What worked for you this past cycle, this past moon cycle? What didn't work for you? What do you still need to work on going into the next moon phase? So full moons are times to pause, review, and reflect. And like I previously said, decide what didn't work for you in your reviewing process. And then it's a time to let go of what didn't work. Let go of any energies that didn't work for you, let go of any beliefs, let go of any projects that maybe just didn't pan out the way you thought. Especially thoughts, any thoughts that are not, and you'll see why I'm saying thoughts in a little bit, but let go of any thoughts that are not benefiting you. Any negative thinking, just let go. So we have this nice big full moon, everything has come full circle. And now as the moon starts to wane, or what, wane away. I always get wax and wane mixed up. And now as the moon starts to wane away, just as the moon starts to decrease in size after this full moon, that's when we also want to let go of the things that are not working for us, so that by the time we hit that new moon, again, we've let go of everything and we're ready to reset. So that's new moon energies. That's a very brief overview. I'm sorry, full moon energies, a brief overview. And now let's talk about Gemini energies, because this full moon falls in the zodiac sign of Gemini. So I do believe this is where I want to pause. I want to let you know, so I'm going to stop my screen just here momentarily, because I'm going to check my notes and I want to share the story of Gemini. So if you're not familiar with this story, I'm going to give you the very brief story. Gemini, there's two brothers, two twins. Now these twins have the same mama, but they got different baby daddies. And because they got different baby daddies, they have different qualities. One, Pollux, is immortal, and the other one, Castor, is immortal. So they go through life, they're inseparable, they're the best example of brotherly love that you can think of. And Castor, the mortal, comes to the end of his lifespan, as humans do, and he passes away and he dies. Pollux just can't bear to be without his brother, and he goes to Zeus, the god of all gods, and says, "Can I share my immortality with my brother?" And Zeus grants the wish by making them or turning them into the constellation that we know as Gemini. So there's a lovely Gemini story. That's what's happening with the twins and with this. So that just gives you a brief overview, because the fact that they're twins is going to. Now, I do want to pause and go back. Again, I'm sorry I'm going off script, but I don't have my notes available. But I do want to pause and go back before we get into fully digging into these energies. I want to take a moment to just give you a different way to look at these events, because I know we give you a lot of information, and I want you to think of this as if you have just stepped into Full Moon Cafe. And Full Moon Cafe is a buffet, and you can pick whatever energies, whatever things Moon Cafe. This buffet also has specials on the menu. A couple of times a month, they have specials. And this time, as you step into Full Moon Cafe, the specials that they have are Gemini. It's the Gemini cuisine. So in addition to eating from Full Moon Cafe, you can also put Gemini cuisine items on your plate. Now, the thing with this cafe is they also allow you to take to-go plates. I know most buffets don't do that. So as you think about these energies and picking and choosing which ones work for you in your current situation, you can choose to fill your plate up with whichever energies suit you best. Sometimes we pick the same energies because we know it tastes delicious. Sometimes we're looking for something new and we're just picking something and trying it out. Same way with these events. Pick what works for you. Stay with what is already working for you, but know that you can pick and choose. You don't have to pick up all of this energy and pull all of these different ideas in to be effective. You can just pick one or two. And you can sit down and eat them right now, meaning you can consume this information and use it specifically for this full moon ceremony covering this Saturday and the next 2 weeks. Or you can take a to-go plate, meaning that these energies are always available to you. You can pull these energies in and work with them while they're on the menu, which means while they're at their strongest, while they're most magnified by the moon energy. But you can keep those with you in a to-go plate and work with them for as long as you need to work with them. You just think of it as this is the time when they're at their most magnified. So I just want to, because sometimes there seems to be confusion as to, if I don't do something on this Saturday during the full moon with these energies, does that mean that I missed out on the Gemini energies? No. I also want you to remember that the moon makes its cycle through all 12 signs every month. It's just when it is full moon and new moon is when we take notice of which sign it's in. But every month the moon goes through Gemini. And so every month you can pull these energies in and work with them. So I hope I didn't confuse y'all with my little explanation of buffet eating and to-go plates, but I meant to mention that at the beginning, because I know we get a lot of comments about feeling an urgency to work with them on the specific day, or feeling like they missed out if they forgot that, oh man, I forgot the new moon was on, the full moon was on Saturday and I didn't do. It's okay. It's okay. You can still work with these energies throughout the month. So I just wanted to pause and say that. And let's see, we talked about the story of the twins. Now let's go back to talking more about Gemini energies. I feel like I'm all over the place, y'all. It's okay. Because it's Valerie and y'all used to me being all over the place. Now I got to find my screen share again. One moment. Nope. That was the event page. Yeah. Which screen are y'all seeing right now? Are y'all seeing my meetup page? Or are you seeing the Gemini screen?
I'm seeing something that says Valerie has started screen sharing, but the actual screen isn't up yet.
Okay. Let's try this again. That's source telling me to slow down. That's what that is.
We got a question from Johnson DX1 who want to clarify that you're saying that people could pull in the energy and do their ritual on a different day. Like it doesn't exactly have to be Saturday. And I said, I thought that was fine.
Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable. Maybe that's why it's not there. Can you guys see it now?
Yes, now we see the Gemini energy.
Perfect. Oh, okay. And now I'm sorry. The question was, we can pull energy and do our ritual, for example, Friday if I'm busy Saturday. Yes, I agree with what Robin said. You can do it on energies or when those energies are the most amplified. But when you think about the moon is almost full in the sky on a Friday. So you're still going to have that energy amplified. It's just going to be the most amplified under the actual full moon. So yeah, I agree with what Robin said.
Yeah, actually, this was something that Spirit had to explain to me because I'm very much a rule follower. And I was like, at one point, I think I was sick on the full moon. I'm like, oh no, I missed it. And they're like, look, the most important thing is what resonates with you, because that helps you take the energy in. And if the energy is at 100%, but then you don't resonate with it and you don't take it in, you're much better off with 99% energy at a time that you're receptive and open and really setting an intention to benefit from it. Yeah.
Absolutely. You did a much better job of explaining that. I totally agree.
That is totally not true, Valerie. The world is enhanced by our diverse explanation.
Exactly. I love it. All right. So let's get back into talking about the twins, Gemini energies, and what they mean. So first of all, Gemini is the third sign of the zodiac. The element is air. The quality is mutable. So air deals with thinking, communication, our thoughts. Mutable signs are the ones that are changeable. They're very adaptable. They are usually mediators because not only are they adaptable in their own life, but they're able to see different points of view and work with those different points of views, which makes them great mediators because they often bring others together. So understanding that this is a very good time to embrace change just because we are in a mutable sign. And then Gemini specific energies are going to enhance that. Like what areas do we want to bring that change into? But anytime we're in a mutable sign, know that it's a good time to work with change or usher in change into our life. The ruling planet is Mercury. Many of you know that Mercury is also the sign of communication, which makes sense that it would go hand in hand with the element of air, which is about talking and communication and thought processes. The key phrase is, I think. All of the 12 zodiacs have key phrases. And then the tarot suit is swords. Again, swords is just like swords is the element of air as in the tarot, and swords deals with thinking and communication and thoughts. The tarot card for Gemini energies is the Lovers. Interesting to note that the Lovers is also the card for 2022. So we're headed into 2022. This is the last full moon of the year, and the card for Gemini is the Lovers. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. And because it's the third sign of the zodiac, it rules the third house along with Mercury. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about Gemini. These are some characteristics of Gemini as a person. They are generally lighthearted, easygoing, bubbly, cheerful, intelligent. They are intelligent because of their quest for knowledge. I think very much describes their sign because they are on an insatiable quest for knowledge. They like gathering this knowledge and then communicating what they've learned. So they're very intelligent. They're versatile. Again, that ties in with them being a mutable sign. Clear thinking. Talkative. They like to talk because they are communicators and they like to share all of their knowledge. Excitable. Maybe that's where Robin was getting that excitable feeling from. What was that word we made up at the beginning? I forget now. I think that's my last one. Okay, so just a couple more thoughts about Geminis. I really want to emphasize that they are thought leaders, that they really love gathering in knowledge. They like learning new things, figuring out, studying new. When they have a new idea, they like digging in and studying it and figuring out all they can about it. Because they are such receptors for knowledge, they're also great communicators. So what they do when they take that knowledge in is they want to communicate it and share it with everyone else. Geminis are known to ask very good questions in conversation because they like figuring out what's going on. But because they are also communicators, one of the things that this energy you need to be careful about is being careful not to be a gossip, because they take all this information in and then they want to tell everybody everything. There was a joke online when I was reading about Gemini energies that it said, if you want everybody to know about something, just tell a Gemini, because they're going to spread that information with everyone. Now, I don't know if anyone here in this room is a Gemini. I hope I haven't offended you. I thought it was a funny kind of sarcastic way to describe a Gemini, but that can be a very good thing because it makes them very good with public speaking. They're able to gather knowledge and relay it in a way that can inspire a crowd or that can educate a crowd. It also makes them good, like with journalism, any career where they're taking knowledge in and then disseminating it in a clear way where others can gain from that knowledge. It's going to be well suited to a Gemini or to Gemini energies. So if you're working on any of these pursuits, trying to write a book, or maybe trying to be more prominent on Facebook and videos or something like that, where you're speaking to the public, now is a good time to pull in these Gemini energies to help you with those. So let's put it all together. So we talked about full moon, we talked about Gemini, let's put them together. Full moon in Gemini, what does that mean for us? Well, this is our last full moon of the year, and this full moon is a lighthearted, lucky, magical moon. The lighthearted energy of a Gemini moon should feel refreshing after the chaotic energies of the eclipse season that we just came out of. So this will be a great energy to just kind of wrap everything up with in 2021. As I mentioned, full moons are times to reflect and review what worked and what didn't. Add that to the curious, adaptable, research-savvy Gemini, and we have an excellent opportunity to really dig in and examine our past year, and then use that knowledge to benefit us as we set intentions for 2022. As we wrap things up, full moon energies, and end projects, we look ahead to what we would like to do differently in 2022. Is there a new idea or project, Gemini energies, that we would like to study in the new year? Or perhaps maybe there's just several things that we would like to change, and we would like some help in making those changes. So Gemini is perfectly suited to help with both. New ideas is Gemini's jam, excuse me. And because it's a mutable sign, it's great at helping you adapt and change. All right. But why did I call it a lucky moon earlier? Lucky, what's Gemini got to do with lucky? I'm so glad y'all asked. Y'all are so good at asking questions. This full moon in Gemini makes a favorable trine with Jupiter. And Jupiter is the planet associated with luck, abundance, and good fortune. So we can also pull in some of that Jupiter energy. Again, we're just talking about some of the other signs that are in play with Gemini in the sky at this time. Well, what about that magical thing? We said lighthearted, lucky, magical. What about that magical thing? Oh, you guys are so good at these questions. The full moon in Gemini will be directly opposite the galactic center. What's the galactic center, you say? The galactic center is believed to be the heart of our universe and home to some of the most potent, magical, and mysterious energy in our cosmic size. So that is where the magical comes in, because it's also making a very favorable aspect to Gemini full moon with the galactic center. So we can pull in those galactic center energies as well. With the full moon directly opposite this sacred point in the sky, the energies are likely to be powerful and may even feel like they are out of this world. So under this full moon, we may find it easier to connect with starseed energies and interstellar beings. I know some of y'all are looking forward to that. Okay. So that's what I have as far as full moon and Gemini energies in the presentation, but I am getting back to pulling cards for you all because I need y'all to know what the tarot says. So when I pull these cards, let me stop my share because I don't need the screen share up. I'm not pulling a spread. I'm pulling specific cards and then reading from the guidebook. So the first one I want to pull is from the Zodiac guide book, and it is Gemini. That's how they just, oh, there's a lot of glare. That's how they illustrated the twins in this deck. I just want to read a little bit about what this book says, just to give you some additional information and to show you how, even if you are not into the tarot and oracle as a divination tool, it still makes an excellent research tool. There's so much information that you can gain as far as your studies into other things that you are interested in, like the planets. So let me find Gemini, and I'll read just a little bit about that sign. This fast-moving energy of air moves with mutable flow and suggests that you consider every option, every facet of a situation before taking action. The key phrase, I think, means that the motivation is centered on gathering and assessing as much information as possible. In this situation, ask, what do I need to know more about? Follow your curiosity and don't stop until it is satisfied. Gemini energy is very fast moving and can easily get distracted. There are so many things to be curious about and to pay attention to. Reel that in just a bit and make sure that you stay focused and avoid flightiness. So that's a little bit of information there from that deck about Gemini. The next deck I want to, well, you know what? Sure didn't do that. It's not a deck, it's my tarot, because I just want to show you all who are not familiar with the tarot, what the tarot lovers card looks like. And of course, I did not bring the guidebook for this, but I know my tarot. I can tell y'all all about the lovers card. And part of me, while I thumb through my cards and find the lovers card, because I did not have it picked out like I intended to. Here it is, found it. I just love this particular deck's depiction of the lover card. This is one of my favorites. My second favorite is in the Light Seers deck, but the lovers card, so Gemini card, well, most obviously, because it's one of the major tarot cards that displays two characters as the main characters in the card. So two characters, twins, Gemini. What can I say about the lovers card and its link to Gemini? It's all about love, loving yourself, self-love, loving another partner, perhaps, especially with this energy. Gemini can help you more effectively communicate with those that you love, can help you more effectively communicate with yourself as far as being truthful with the things that are coming up for you around the area of self-love. So that's all I wanted to say about that card. And then the last deck I'm going to go to is, I bet y'all can't guess, it's a Moonology. Look at that big full moon right there. I'm not going to show you the card because the card is just a picture of the moon. I'm going to read from the guidebook under full moon in Gemini. And it says, the answers you need are coming. See how that would be tied to Gemini energy, because the Gemini is always on a quest for knowledge and seeking answers. So the answers you need are coming. Talk, talk, and more talk as the emotional full moon moves into the communicative sign of Gemini. It's easy to say too much, so mind how far you go when you pull this card. This card can also indicate an enjoyable social event, since the full moon in Gemini is a great time for socializing. This card also augurs well for any study you're either taking or considering. One thing I forgot to mention about Geminis are really good flirts. So one of the other things this deck says is someone is trying to flirt with you. Why are Geminis good flirts? Because they're so skilled at communication. Their words flow smoothly and they're buttery and they're sweet, and it makes them perfect flirts. So you can use that energy, perhaps tie that into the lover's energy. If you're trying to snag somebody, you got somebody on the hook, tap into that Gemini energy so you can use those sweet words to sway them over to your side. Okay, so that's all I have for the cards, and that's all I have for my portion of new moon and Gemini energies. And now I'm going to turn it over to Rob. Well, first I'm going to ask, are there any questions? Yes, I need a good flirting partner right now. See? Practice them skills. Practice them skills. Call in that energy. All right. I don't see any question. Lisa, mine too. That's why I ain't got nobody. Robin, go ahead.
All right. Well, that was great. I thought that was an amazing. I've totally stopped discussing basic like energies of the signs because Valerie, you do such a great job telling us about everything. I will mention one thing though that tends to get lost a little bit when people talk about Gemini, but I think you're alluding to it, which is very important, is that Geminis don't just love gathering information. Gemini can have sort of like the dragon's hoard, like, oh, all my shiny bits of information, but they love communicating with it too, which is part of why they're great flirts. So there's a Gemini has a great love of connection, and they tend to kind of wither Gemini energies if they don't have a partner to bounce things off of. So if you don't have an actual partner in your external life, try talking to your inner child, talking to your higher self, talking to your spirit guides, because there's that need to not just have information and share it, but to get feedback. What do you think about that? And often Gemini energies involve actually like the truth or the information doesn't really become absorbed or it doesn't become useful until you can bounce it off somebody else. So if you feel like you need a talking partner or a flirting partner, which is a great idea, then definitely go for it, because that's super Gemini. And I just wanted to point out, Valerie, that actually this presentation here where you're like, I got my slides, but then I got a bunch of different decks, and then I got 2 guidebooks. That's a very Gemini way. It's kind of like you cast a big net. I've noticed that my astrology clients with a lot of Gemini energy write the longest testimonials because they just want to communicate everything that they got out of our reading. And so it's great because I always have like, they'll write these like 3 or 4 paragraph long things, and there's plenty to look at. So yeah. I thank God for my Gemini clients because they're so good at giving feedback.
And another thing, mentioning that where I'm like doing this and this and this, that's another quality of Gemini, because Gemini, the twins, most Geminis, they have 2 of everything. That is to say, they like a variety of everything. So they like 2 of this and 2 of that, and they got to have the brown and the black so yeah, that's a lot of this Gemini energy going on. Yeah.
And I want to mention that when you say a Gemini, that doesn't only mean people with their sun in Gemini, because there are plenty of people with tons of planets in Gemini or an ascendant in Gemini who are going to have a lot of this type of energy. So don't be sitting there thinking, this resonates with me, but I'm a Virgo. Like, you're not a Virgo because your sun is in Virgo. You have multiple energies in your chart. And like, I have a ton of Sagittarius energy, and that's because I have Jupiter in Sagittarius and Neptune, and it's at the top of my chart. So we can all be Geminis. And I think today we can all be honorary Geminis. Yeah. Okay. All right. Ooh, Aries shares that her parents are both Geminis, and that's where she gets all her talking from because she was raised with 2 of them. Yeah, that's a chattery household, probably. Okay. All right. Well, I'll get on to my portion of the presentation where we're going to look at the actual astrology a little bit more closely here. Not that Valerie's wasn't the actual astrology, but we're going to look at planets specifically. So can you guys see this here? See my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, and then remember that I can't see anything while I have my screen shared. So if anybody has a question, or if you lose me and you need me to backtrack because my internet froze, make sure to interject verbally and tell me what's going on. All right, so this is both a tropical and a sidereal Gemini moon. So the tropical zodiac is what we normally use when people look at Western astrology. And it basically describes the alignment of the signs with the seasons, which is where they were aligned in the sky 2,000 years ago when Western astrology was written down. But because there's a wobble in the Earth's orbit, the Earth, the sky actually slips backwards by 1 degree every 72 years. And now 2,000 years later, the actual zodiac, the constellations in the sky, are 24 degrees roughly behind the tropical seasonal zodiac. And most astrologers just use only tropical or sidereal. And I think you can do a great reading either way, but I do like to use both. And the way I look at it is that the tropical, in my experience, tends to reflect what's going on in our inner world, how we're experiencing life and our inner desires. And then the sidereal zodiac often represents like what actually is happening out there, especially if you feel kind of a disjunction, Like you want one thing, but then the results are opposite, or you're trying to achieve a certain thing, but people are reacting a different way. So every sign is 30 degrees long, and the gap between the two, the tropical and the sidereal, is 24 degrees. So if you have a tropical full moon at the later degrees, you can subtract 24, and the sidereal moon is actually still in the same sign. And that's what we have right here. So this is a super duper Gemini, super Gemini moon. And so I've entitled this Loving Your Truth, which has to do with some of what's been going on with me lately. And also we'll dive into the astrology. So I wanted to mention that, Gemini is very fond of information and communication. So this is a great sign for understanding and thinking about things. And very often we think of things from a very terrestrial perspective. Like we're here on Earth, we're looking at the mud that's right in front of us. We see the to-do list, the laundry, the people around us and how they interact with us. But this particular moon is a great time to try to get a bigger perspective, to get communication from sources that maybe aren't just right in front of our faces all the time. And we have this idea that well, we're down here on Earth, and then our divine connection is up there in space, or the planets are out there. And there's a sense of a separation. Or we can have a tendency to be looking back at the tracks of our own past. Well, what happened to me as a kid? Well, I was raised by such and such parents, or my third grade teacher told me whatever she told you. Hopefully it was good, but usually we have some teacher somewhere who maybe wasn't so encouraging. And so I'm really encouraging us this time to make use of these Gemini energies to try to get a perspective from out there. And I want to give you guys a chance here. This is a slide, a picture that was taken by NASA's Cassini spacecraft in April of 2017. I got this from one of my mother's presentations. She's an astronomer. Obviously, this is Saturn here in Saturn's rings. This little thing in the bottom is the sun peeking out. I would like you guys, if you want to put in chat, take a guess at what this little dot is. Can you see the yellow arrow? Anybody have any guesses about what looks like a little speck of dust? Or Valerie, if you want to read any chat responses, or if you would like to interject and take a guess. Audience participation moment.
Misha said Chiron.
Chiron, that's a good thought. Anybody else have any ideas? Thank you, Misha. You're always willing to jump in. I super appreciate that about you.
I'm not seeing anything else. I would say Earth. But
that's right. That's exactly what that is. That is what Earth looks like from behind Saturn's rings.
Wow.
My mother showed that. I was on her presentation just, to support her, and she showed this sign, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing picture. I've got to find a place for this. And so this is really you can see how precious but also fragile Earth is from this perspective. You don't see the pollution, you don't see the plastic in the ocean, you don't see the politics or the social media or the bullying or prejudice or whatever. You can see that Earth is this incredible, precious, fragile dot floating in space here. And so I'm encouraging us to start thinking of ourselves in that way. Not that we're fragile or floating in space, although you might feel that way, but really more like as you're this incredible, precious thing, and try to rise above. Just for the sake of these Gemini energies, utilize them to rise above the, well, but I got a C on my test in third grade. Or, well, my husband and I don't always get along. Or, well, I'm not the most organized. Like we always have this list of things that are, wrong, unsatisfactory, could be improved. And Earth has that list of things too, but that doesn't mean it's not also beautiful and precious. So that's kind of my theme for today. And then we're gonna move on from there. Okay. So higher perspectives. So anyway, here's the two spots. There's the moon. You can see it's at 27 degrees Gemini. This is the tropical chart. And then if we subtract 4, the actual sidereal moon is right here at the beginning of Gemini. So the first thing to think about is, where is Gemini in your chart? What house it's in will help you see where these Gemini energies are really coming into play. I have Gemini in my 4th house, so I'm thinking about a lot of seeing myself differently in the way that I interact with my family and friends, and in the way that I feel about being at home on Earth. But you can take a look at your own chart and see where your own Gemini is. If we blow up this part of the zodiac, we can see that actually it's not just, oh, well, they're both Gemini. because I've used what are called the decans, which is where you subdivide each sign into 3 10-degree bands. And then also the Chaldean terms, which is, nobody knows where these come from, but they've been around for like 3,000 or 4,000 years. And it's basically a way of dividing each sign into areas that are ruled by each planet. So if we break this down, we can see that our tropical Gemini is in the term of Saturn, and it's in the decan of Uranus. So that means it's specifically focused on making progress, personal progress, but also show social progress. But if we subtract our 24 degrees and we go back to our sidereal Gemini, you can see we've got a double Mercury here. Mercury is the one that looks kind of like a female symbol with the little horns on top. I think of the horns as like little antenna, because Mercury is always beaming out information. Mercury rules communication, so it's always beaming out information and then receiving signals from other people. So if we break these two down, these Mercury, double Mercury, and the Saturn and Uranus, they can give us a sense of what's going on in our inner world, in the tropical portion, and then how that's going to manifest in the outer world. Anybody have any questions they want to ask before I get on to that portion of things? Pause for questions? No. Okay. So inner world, 27 degrees Gemini with Uranus and Saturn. So Uranus is a planet of change, and Saturn is a planet of planning and structure. And so I entitled this, we're analyzing the progress of your changes. What changes are bearing good fruit? And you might want to double down on things. Where do you envision things going next? What plans have you made that need tweaking? Or maybe you haven't made plans and you're like, all right, now's the time to produce whatever change it is that you're looking for. So you can have a lot of information under a Gemini moon, but the Uranus and Saturn are really wanting to help you take that information and turn it into actually making progress, doing something with your life. And I have this picture. This is a picture I took at a dahlia farm, actually, in Central Oregon. And I was thinking about what the flower and the bee are communicating to each other, because Gemini is all about communication. You know, the bee is obviously gathering pollen to go back and make honey with and nourish its hive. But the bee is communicating to the flower, you are useful. You are providing support for life on this planet. And of course, I came along and took this picture and I communicated to the flower, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. And to the bee, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. Look how industrious and gorgeous you are gathering this pollen and creating honey for your hive. So I want to really think about not just verbal communication, which Gemini is amazing at that, and I'm sure you'll get plenty of that. But what is the message that is being sent by your interactions with other people? And are you finding people who are communicating positive things to you and helping you understand your own strengths and make progress in your own changes? Or are you surrounded by people who are not so positive about you or not communicating anything to you because they're not really paying attention? So really the Gemini communication is not just verbal and mental, it's also that support that we give each other that says, yes, you have an important place in this world. So when we look at the outer world, that's the 3 degrees Gemini, and it's the double Mercury. Here's what I think we're going to be experiencing as we work on our own changes. Helping yourself and others to understand your truth. I think as individuals, we have a lot of hidden truths inside of ourselves that we're kind of afraid to look at sometimes. And so this double Mercury is really going to help us understand that and then help us learn to help others understand what's going on with us. So we've got desire and bravery to communicate with yourself, becoming chattier with revealing who you are, and then analysis, Mercury's mental planet, analysis brings rewards in communication and fellowship. So I wrote this slide a couple days ago and I was lying in bed this morning, and I always make time when I'm lying in bed I just open my psyche up and I'm like, what spirits, what guides, what energies want to come communicate with me? You know, where am I today? And I got a visit from Mercury, the energy of Mercury, which is the first time this has ever happened. And remember I said at the beginning, I was kind of nervous to talk about this, but I decided to do it anyway. And what Mercury said to me was, communication is scary. And I was like, you're an aspect of divine love. You're not supposed to scare me. And he was like, okay, I'm not saying it's dangerous, but communication is how we reach out, how humans reach out to other members of the herd. And we've all had experiences where somebody hurt us with what they said, or maybe we unwittingly hurt somebody else with what we said. And he's like, your listeners need help feeling safe to communicate, safe to see what's inside of you, and then safe to share their truth with others. So we're going to get to more of that when we get to the ritual portion of things. But that was step one here, was just noticing if there's any part of you that is worried about communicating or feels like it's not safe to reveal yourself, even to yourself. That would be a great thing to work on changing here. All right, is this resonating with people? Do people have any questions, or should we go on to the planets, other planets?
I'm not seeing any questions, but I'm seeing some smiles, so it looks like it's resonating.
Okay, that's great. All right, so let's look at the actual other planets. Valerie mentioned Jupiter, which was awesome. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. So we're going to start, there is a conjunction, which means two planets that are pretty close together, well, two bodies that are close together in the zodiac, with Lilith. And Lilith is this thing in the upper left that looks like a moon on top of a little cross. There are a lot of interpretations of Lilith, and not all of them are very positive or complimentary, but I find that Lilith is often a place where people kind of start out a little bit isolated, like fighting for what they believe in. Think of like Martin Luther King Jr. before people started glomming onto his message, you know, or Mother Teresa taking care of lepers in Calcutta and orphans in Calcutta when nobody else cared about them. It's like that place where you're out on the cutting edge, planting your flag, saying this is important to me, even if other people don't necessarily agree with that at the beginning anyway. And so since we have Lilith really close to our moon here, I think that this is a chance when we may find that our communication is not received with open arms by everybody right away. People may say it's weird, or they may not understand it. Or you might feel like, wow, this is not something other people are talking about. I feel kind of all out there by myself. But what happens with Lilith is that if you fight for it, and if it's important to you and meaningful, people will eventually realize that actually you are making a really important point, and they will come around. Maybe not everybody, but you will gather that audience. Think of Jesus out in the desert, right? Gathering all the poor lepers and women who wanted to feel valuable to him. So don't be surprised if the information coming up is a little edgy or fringy, or you're not feeling super supported, but persevere in it because it is going to turn out to be important. Then we have that lucky trine that Valerie mentioned. So a trine is a 120-degree angle, and it's this blue line. You can see these two planets are pretty close to 120 degrees apart in the zodiac. That means that Jupiter's energy is really supportive to this communication that we're doing. And Jupiter in Aquarius is always about abundance and exploration that supports progress. So this is a great time to do that internal spelunking, where you're like, I'm just going to explore. I've never done this before, like me. I've never talked to Mercury before, but it was a really great conversation, and I'm for sure going to go back and talk some more. So don't be afraid to be adventurous. Again, you don't have to tell everybody right away. You never have to tell everybody. You can always find the right audience for you, but just don't close off those internal intuitive conduits, because this is a time when being a little bit more adventurous and doing something maybe you've never done before could really pay off. And then we do have another square with Neptune. We've been dealing with this square for a while now because Neptune moves pretty slowly. And what this means, a square is a 90-degree angle. That's these red lines. And a trine, the blue line, is very like supportive, and it tends to flow easily. And the red lines tend to be more like driving in heavy traffic. You know, there's some fender benders, some stops and starts, things don't flow easily. And Neptune in Pisces is all about the unknown, the cosmic connection, mysticism, information where you're like, I don't know how I know this. I'm not sure where the source came from. I'm not even sure what to do with this. And what that means is that we may have to push through some things that don't make a whole lot of sense. Like when Mercury said to me, communication is scary. And I was like, that's not what you're supposed to say. Like it took me a while to figure out what the point was there. So again, don't expect that all the communication is going to flow beautifully and you're going to wake up magically with the entire plan in your head. Expect to have to bushwhack through the jungle a little bit and to keep, you know, working at it, to be patient while things unfold. All right, any other questions? I think that's the last for the planets. And we're going to wrap it all up. Okay.
No questions.
So, all right. So wrapping this all up, expect isolation or loneliness in your communication. That's that Lilith moon conjunction. Don't be surprised if you're like, this is not going to be popular down at the pub. Or, wow, this isn't what my family taught me. Or, gosh, really? I never thought of myself this way. That's just that initial information is likely to come in. But that's good because that means you're making progress. I saw a great quote, which was, you can't have innovation until you question the system or question the method. So this new stuff that feels isolating or lonely, that's a sign that you're like doing something new. And again, you don't have to dive into it. You don't have to embrace it 100%, but just expect that you may feel that way. Let the unknown spur curiosity and investigation, because you might have to push and ask and bounce it off somebody and think about it for a bit and meditate or journal before this communication really becomes clear to you. Discover new things to communicate. This might be a good time to be like, all right, maybe I really should work through that experience I had at summer camp. Like any of those areas where you're like, I've kind of been avoiding dealing with this. All right, I think I really do need to talk to my boss. Let me find a friend that I can practice on so that I'll really know what I want to say when I get there. Like dust under your proverbial bed, rearrange the furniture, new areas, definitely explore out into that because Jupiter is totally with you here. Be brave in what you think and say. Don't do anything crazy, but consider just taking a few baby steps, or maybe not so baby steps out there, and know that you will survive even if people disagree. This morning I was just like remembering my dad towering over me when I was a 5-year-old and how mad he got about my communication. I have a lot of trauma around communication. And Mercury was like, that's not going to happen to you because you're now 49. You're not 5 anymore. You're not that tiny being standing on the beach with this big sun, beating down on you. It's you can push the edge. It is safe to have this class and talk about your trauma and discuss what's happened to you and tell people what you think. So if you have any sort of like, I can't say this, oh, I should just be quiet, children should be seen and not heard, this is a great time to really push ahead and maybe say some of those things and see what happens. Are people receptive? Do you survive? How does it feel? Do you want to communicate more of that? And then the bottom line is really just try to enjoy the communication energies. Enjoy putting yourself out there, learning more. Some of it's going to be pleasant. Some of it might be challenging. Some of it might be like, oh no, I thought I was done with this and now it's coming back up again. But enjoy the adventure of communicating because these Gemini energies are really here to help us see a new perspective on ourselves. And I've been talking to Jupiter a lot lately and asking for more hope in my life. And I have seen so many rainbows. I know it's kind of faint, but you can see in the background here. I've seen like 3 rainbows in the last 4 days. And yesterday we had both a rainbow and snow on the same day. And so remember that the universe is always communicating those supportive, loving messages. And it's not just about communicating with yourself or with other physical people. Look outside for those positive messages to help you understand how to enjoy communication overall. And then at the bottom, here's my contact information, Robin@PoolMX. That's my website, spiritsaid.com. And then my Instagram, which I'm fitfully on, but hoping to do more with. All right, thoughts, questions? Is this resonating with people? Have you guys been experiencing out there communications lately?
I see some people thinking, but no questions right now.
Okay. All right, well, if something comes up, feel free to ask me later. I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about a ritual later in the event. And I guess I'll stop sharing my screen then.
Excuse me. Thank you, Robin. I love that. I love that.
I think that Chiron is too small to see from Saturn. But I liked that guess. It was a really good guess.
To make how small Earth is.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I know, I was totally blown away by that picture. I'm like, wow, that is a different perspective. And then it's like, that is what we need. We need a different perspective so that we're not always just stuck in the same way we've always thought about things.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, let's move on, if we don't have any questions, to the rituals. Again, take what works for you. Mix and match. If you hear one thing from one ritual and something else from another ritual, this is all about you creating a ritual that works for you so that you can use these energies. So these are by no means cut and dry. You have to do it this way on the third Sunday under a full moon with your foot in the water. It's not that. It's not like that. These are just suggestions. So let me start my screen share again. And we'll get into talking about rituals. All right, so that's where he ended.
I gotta say, Valerie, I've been waiting for you to do a card ritual.
Oh, I'm not doing one this time. Well, am I? Am I?
You are. You already pulled some cards.
Oh, yeah. That counts, yeah. I am going to be talking about cards a little bit later, though. Okay. So let's move on. So moon water. We have talked about moon water many, many times. It's one of the most popular ways to work with moon energies is setting out some water under the moon, letting that water absorb the energies of the moon and of the astrological signs and energies that are present, and then using that water in different ways. So what I want you to be aware of is that we can take these same, maybe they've even gotten boring for you because you've heard them so much and you've done them so much. We can take these same rituals and we can tweak them to specifically help us work with the signs or the energies that are present. So how do we do that with moon water? First of all, these are going to be rituals that are going to involve you drinking the water. So I would suggest that you use the easiest way to do it is just to get a clear bottled water that's not opened yet and sit it out under the moon and let that be your moon water, because this is going to be water for drinking. Or find some water that is specifically for drinking. If you use tap water in a clear container and you set it out under the moon, you're going to need to drink it within a couple of days because you don't want that bacteria to start growing. So use filtered or purified water, or if you use tap water, just make sure that you're using it within a couple of days. So I just want to mention that when we talk about actually drinking the moon water, because you can do a lot of things, but we're going to talk about specifically using this for drinking. Why would we want to use this moon water for drinking? So first of all, let me just make sure, in case somebody is new to moon water, let me be clear. Moon water, how you create moon water is by putting it in a clear container so that the light of the moon can come through the clear container, and you just set your intentions for the water, and then you set that water out under the full moon. In this case, it's a full moon, under the full moon. It's going to absorb the energies of the full moon. Also, if you are setting your intentions to also work with the energies of Gemini, which are present, or other energies that were mentioned like Jupiter or Mercury, you can set those intentions and also pull that energy into the water as well. With moon water, it's advisable that you pull that water in before sunrise because you don't want to also absorb the energies of the sun, unless you do, but generally you don't. Generally, we're calling it moon water because it's moon water and we just want the energies of the moon and what's going on up there. So that's how you make moon water if you're new to it. But let's move on. So moon water for drinking. Why drinking? We're going to set the intention that each time you drink this water, it will deepen the Gemini energies within you, helping you to open your communication with others and to speak with clarity. Y'all have seen me grab my water bottle many times because I seem to have a tickle in my throat this evening. So that's one of the very easiest ways that you can work with this moon water. It's definitely going to aid in opening you up and opening your communication and making your speech flow more clearly. You can make tea with this moon water. A calming tea like chamomile tea or lemon tea would be well suited for the intention of opening your communication channels and speaking with clarity. You can drink it straight from the bottle if you use bottled water, or straight from the container. You can also make coffee with it. I don't know why I put tea. I don't know, because I was thinking calm. I was thinking calming. But you can make coffee with moon water too. Highly suggest it. This last one is my favorite. Make ice cubes from the moon water and use it in other cold beverages. So we're going to make it adaptable. Remember, we said Gemini is that mutable, adaptable energy. If you make ice cubes, you can put it in almost any drink. All right. Moon water ritual number 1. Also, let me go back. These require you collecting things and doing things. But let's say you're just real basic, because sometimes that's just how it plays out, especially because it's the end of the year and we're short on time trying to do all these holiday things. Maybe your ritual is just filling out this sheet because you want to be familiar with the energies. You filled out your sheet. Maybe you think about that sheet a couple of times. Maybe you meditate on some of the things you wrote down and you call it a day. That is a ritual. Coming to these events, just learning about these energies and thinking about them over the course of the next couple of days, that can be your ritual. I'm saying this to say it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It doesn't mean you have to go out and buy something or collect something. It can be as basic or as elaborate as you want it to be. It's going to depend on you personally, on how you work best with these energies. Don't stress yourself out. Another ritual. Working with crystals. Crystals for this full moon. I meant to delete that. This image is not from Pinterest. It's just from the World Wide Web. Blue kyanite, which is pictured there. Blue kyanite is one of my favorite for working with the throat chakra and communication, just because I really like that stone. Some others that I like working with, any blue stone is going to help you open up and work with that throat chakra. We're working with the throat chakra because we're talking about communication, because Gemini energy is about communicating. Any blue stone. So another stone that I also like is lapis lazuli. That's another one. It's a darker blue stone with little flecks of pyrite in it. What's another blue stone? There's one more that's my favorite. Larimar is one of my favorites, but you don't see Larimar as popular as it used to be. There's another one that it's not coming to me. Anyway, turquoise could be one, depending on the shade, if you got a blue turquoise. But any blue stone, I just put blue kyanite because that's one of my favorites, and I didn't want to overload you with a whole list of every blue stone in creation. Any stones that are specific for throat chakra or communication. I'm calling them stones, crystals, y'all know what I mean. Celestite and Lemurian quartz are a couple of other crystals that you could use specifically for this full moon, because those quartz are known to enhance interstellar communications or meditations that you have where you're wanting to communicate and receive messages from interstellars. So that's why I mentioned those two specifically for this full moon, because as I mentioned, we are opposite the galactic center. And so it's also a good time to pull in those energies and communicate beyond our solar system if you so choose, if that's your jam. Those are some good crystals to work with. Moonstone, because the moonstone is very closely related to the moon. So what do you do when you want to work with these crystals? If you have these crystals, sit them out under the full moon so that they absorb the energies just like you would with the water, and then carry these crystals with you in your pocket, or maybe turn them into jewelry items. However you choose to carry the energy around with you is how you would work with crystals under a full moon, by sitting them out under the full moon and letting them absorb the energies. While I'm speaking about sitting things out under the full moon to let them absorb the energies, this just by happenstance came across, so it's not in the slides, but somebody reached out to me about a new tarot deck, and we were talking about charging it under the full moon, and I was just like, a huge light bulb went out. I was just like, oh my God, yes, I've got to get all my tarot decks together. Why? Because tarot decks and oracle cards are all about opening the channels of communication to the spirit realm, to your higher self, to spirit, to source, to God. It's all about getting messages, Mercury, the messenger planet, and communicating with those non-physical entities and energies. So what a perfect time to take and gather up all your tarot and oracle cards and also charge them and cleanse them under this beautiful full moon, especially if you are someone who does readings where you do regularly communicate with interstellar beings. Perfect time to charge your favorite decks under this under this full moon so that you can receive those messages more easily. So just had to throw in my tarot oracle a little bit there. Okay. Teresa said, put them in your bra. The ice cubes? I'm kidding. The quartz, the crystals. I know you meant the crystals. Okay. All right. Let's move on. So this last one is an actual exercise / ritual. Full moon in Gemini rituals, automatic writing ritual. Because the Gemini energy is about communication, this is a chance for you to use that energy to communicate effectively, but we're going to put a little twist on it. Get in touch with your inner twin. Your inner twin could be your intuition. It could manifest as your higher self, an alternate reality self, even fear. If you want to do some shadow work and you want to talk to that inner twin that is your fear monster to figure out, hey, why are you causing so much havoc in your life? Now is a good time to open those channels of communication with your inner twin. And you can do that through automatic writing ritual. For those of you that are not aware of an automatic writing ritual, we're going to talk about it just a little bit. And it's called many different names. I'm choosing to call it automatic writing. But basically what you're going to do is find a nice quiet place. Make sure you have lots of sheets of paper, not just one or two, lots of sheets, because sometimes a lot more than what you expect comes through during these exercises. So find a quiet place, lots of sheet of paper. I always like to meditate before I do any automatic writing. Do that if you feel called to do so. To me, it puts me in that state of flow. And you need to be in a state of flow in order for this ritual or exercise practice to work. So I heavily suggest meditating beforehand, but again, if you feel called to do so, and if you do, you would meditate, and as soon as you come out of the meditate, you would go directly into this writing exercise. So to start the exercise, you would ask your question to yourself, to your higher self, intuition, whatever person, inner twin person you're choosing to communicate with. Ask your question and write that at the top of your page. Just a little bit about phrasing your question. Instead of saying, will I get that red Porsche by the end of 2021? A better way to phrase that question when you're talking with your inner twin is, what can I do to put myself in a better position to receive that red Porsche by the end of 2021? It's a subtle shift in how you phrase them, but it's so instrumental in allowing messages to come through. When you turn it within and ask, what can I do to make this happen, instead of making it something that's outside of your realm of control. Just a little tip there. So you want to ask your question, write it at the top of your page, and then you write down everything and anything that comes to mind. So that's the thing with automatic writing. It doesn't have to make sense. No one else has to read it. Sometimes as you write things out, it's not even going to make sense to you. That is okay. That is the purpose. I want to give you an example of an example I found online. Someone was doing this exercise as a full moon ritual, and they were writing down just everything, and it looked like gibberish, and there was this one word that they didn't even know what it was, but they thought it was important, and they wrote it down. They almost didn't, but they wrote it down. So after the whole exercise was over, that word was still stuck in their brain. They decided to Google it. It ends up that word was an actual real word. So unknown to this individual, they just thought it was gibberish. But when they Googled it, it ended up being the name of an Egyptian god. And that god was closely tied to helping them through whatever they were working through in their life at that time. So that's the extreme benefit of automatic writing. You basically become a channel to get those messages from your intuition or from your higher self or from fear or whatever you decide to designate as your inner twin. You become a channel and those messages come through you, and then you're able to review those messages at a later time. So that's why it's so important that you write down everything and anything that comes to mind. And I'm choosing automatic writing because I believe, along with the fact that we're talking to our inner twin, I also believe that it ties in very closely with the Gemini energies of asking questions, searching for knowledge, and communication. We're communicating with ourselves in this case. So that's what I have as far as rituals. Does anyone have any questions or comments about those rituals? Nope. Good. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Robin.
Well, I thought that was great. I loved the automatic writing ritual. It's so Gemini. And I can relate to the whole stuff comes through and you're like, I'd never heard this word. Is this even a word? And I was doing a past life thing at one point and I was like, where the heck is this? I was in a monastery and I heard the words Carthusian mysteries. And I vaguely knew that the Carthusian was like some monastic order. I had no idea what they had to do with mysteries because I don't normally think of monasticism and mysteries. And then I went and researched it and it turned out that my daily routine is like exactly the daily routine of the Carthusian mystery order. Like skipping breakfast, praying for 2 hours in the morning, emerging at noon, falling asleep from like 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then getting up to pray and work. Like it was amazing how much my life, which is totally not a normal, like, machine age timetable, get up at 7 and go to bed at, 10 p.m. I don't even do that. And I'm like, wow, I'm still living according to the monastic order of the Carthusian mysteries, of whom I had never heard until I did this thing. So yeah, I think automatic writing is amazing because so often there's just great information buried within us. And I love the idea of talking to your inner twin. That's like super cool. All right. Okay. So we'll get on to my side of things. So what I have today, it's not exactly a ritual. I mean, it's sort of a ritual, like you could make it ritually if you want to, and feel free to add any ritualness that you want to this. But I'm calling it the 360 degree love review. And this is just something that I did about 5 days ago. I wasn't even thinking about Gemini energies really, but as I thought about it, it's totally changed my life. It's been incredibly impactful. And I just wanted to pass it along because I think it really is related to Gemini energies and to this idea of getting a new perspective or like connecting with your inner twin and the automatic writing. Like, what is it that you know? What information is around you that just hasn't made it into your conscious mind yet? Okay, so here's what I did, and here's how I'm making it work for you. So the trick is pick what you want to connect with. And I just have some suggestions: your higher self, your inner child, spirit guides, your divine connection. You can totally do this with people in your actual life if you want. So supportive, loving people who you trust, right? But like boss, family members, good friends, anybody who you think knows some information about you that you would really like to know. Or you can do what I did and pick a planet. And I read somewhere that Saturn is the planet of the ego death. And if you're trying to get past the like all the ways you think you should be, or all the ways that you were raised to believe you are, like you're trying to get out of that conditioned truth about yourself, that you should ask Saturn for help. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do it. So I went to Saturn and I just was like, I need help learning what is so great about me. Because I tend to have a lot of negative self-talk. And I remember my parents meant well, but all of their like attempts to help me improve just kind of gave me the impression that there was something wrong with me and that I wasn't good enough. So I tend to see a lot of the negative and I'm like, but spirit thinks I'm really great. And what my spirit guides told me is they're like, actually you also think you're really great, but you've been conditioned not to feel great about yourself because it's arrogant or it's not true, or you're going to get a swelled head, or you're not being humble. But there's like deep inside, there's a part of you that really loves you and thinks you're awesome and amazing. Not just like loves you, cares about you, but actually like thinks you're great and wants to hang out with yourself because you are your own best company. And I was like, no, because every time I look inside, I just see this big like blank spot where I should be enjoying myself. And my guides were like, that's because you're trained that you're not supposed to enjoy yourself because somehow it's not it's not humble, or other people when you were little didn't enjoy you, so you don't think of yourself as somebody that people even would enjoy. And so I was just like, all right, Saturn, I need a 360-degree love review. And this comes from something in the corporate world. A 360-degree review is when you ask not only your boss how you're doing, but you ask the people under you that you manage how you're doing as a manager, and you ask your peers all around you how you are as a coworker. So it's like you're not just having your perspective or the perspective of the authority figure, you're trying to get a 360-degree perspective on who you are, just like this photo, where now we're looking at Earth from the perspective of Saturn. So once you've picked what you want to connect with, if it's a planet, if it's higher self, if it's some other people, you can choose an anchor object. This is the ritual portion of things. So I wanted to connect with Saturn, so I chose this bracelet, which I made for myself. It has obsidian, snowflake obsidian, and black banded agate, which are both Saturn stones. And so I chose this bracelet, and I set my intention. When I am connecting with the energy of this bracelet, this is me giving Saturn permission to show me what other people think of me, show me the impact I'm really having on others, show me that part of myself that loves me and thinks I'm awesome and amazing, and thinks I'm my own best company, because I'm like, I just am not seeing it. And I loved the list that Valerie had of crystals, but you could also use some Gemini crystals. And this is a Saturn and Gemini bracelet that I made for one of my clients. And so Gemini's colors are yellow and orange, really, or also speckled colors are good for Gemini. So I've got some amber here, and then I've got some yellow Swarovski crystals. And I just want to give you a hint. So some people may be very sensitive to crystals. I'm one of them. And I love crystals, but if I end up with too many crystals around me, I get energetically overwhelmed. And so what I have to do is use energetically neutral objects that are in the right color. So that's why I like Swarovski, which is basically glass, or I have glass beads, or sometimes I even use plastic. But I'll pick the color of the sign or the color of the planet. And that way I can be tuning in energetically, but I'm not so overwhelmed by just like all the crystals in my environment, because I kind of interact with crystals like people, and it just, if there's too many of them, then I tend to shrink on the inside. So anyway, so you can use an actual object, or you could pick any object. You could pick a lucky coin, you could pick a favorite necklace, you could pick a stuffed animal. It doesn't really matter what it is. But this object is going to anchor the presence of this information source in your life. And then some questions to ask are, help me see myself the way you see me. I asked Spirit this. You think I'm amazing and awesome. I need to think I'm more amazing and awesome. Help me see what you see. What good or strengths in myself do I not see? Where do I long to be different? Like, what is it that about myself that I wish I could appreciate? And you can also do this, by the way, if there's somebody in your life where you're like, oh man, I just don't like my boss, you know, or I don't like my coworker, or I don't like my spouse. Or sometimes there's situations where people don't like their kids, you know, especially teenagers can go through these difficult phases, and you're like, what happened to my beautiful little boy? Now he just argues with me and leaves, you know, dishes in his room and doesn't put them in the dishwasher. So you can also use this if there's anybody in your life where you're like, I need a more positive attitude about this person. How can I see what is great about them to balance out these irritating or challenging parts? And then this last one is super important. Help me recognize and release my obstacles. So especially if you've been working on self-love or loving somebody else, loving your boss or your kids or whoever, and it's kind of not working, you know, you're like, I'm trying this, but I still have all this negative self-talk, or I still just feel so irritated. You may have some internal obstacles to changing your perspective. So just to give you an example from my life, I realized I felt like my dad's message to me was, don't trust outsiders. You're not safe with them. And you shouldn't feel too good about yourself because other people aren't going to like you either. There's some World War II trauma in our lives that has to do with this. And I realized that if I started to love myself and enjoy myself, I actually had this internal fear that I was being disloyal to my dad. It's like, no, Dad said I wasn't supposed to feel safe. Dad said I wasn't supposed to feel good. And I really didn't want to love myself because I felt like I was going against the precious wisdom that Dad gave me. And I had to have this conversation with my guides, and they're like, that's not wisdom from him. That was trauma from him. but he doesn't want you to live permanently feeling terrible about yourself. And I was like, are you sure? Because my inner child was like, but dad said I should feel bad. Dad said I shouldn't feel confident. You know, growing up in a scientific household and all my metaphysical and mystical ideas, dad said those were foolish. Dad said I shouldn't share that with anybody. So if you're having trouble making these changes, ask to see what the obstacles are and ask for help in releasing and getting over those so that you can move into that new perspective that you're looking for. And then there's my contact information again. And I wanted to offer, if you want help connecting with the planets in your chart, like I know to talk to Saturn because Saturn is very influential in my chart. And if you want help figuring out what planets should I talk to, then I'm actually offering a special reading on that to connect with the planets in your chart. And just for you guys in the moon event, I'm offering a 25% off coupon. If you schedule this reading, you can go to my website. There's a schedule button. So, and then obviously you can email me if you have any questions about this. But if you want help connecting with planets, let me know. We'll do a reading and take a look at what's in your chart and see how you can get started on this journey. Because once I actually started connecting with the planets, not just learning about them, but connecting with those energies, so many things started going right for me. And I want a chance to share that with people. And also, I'll mention, by the way, that Valerie and I are thinking about doing a series of classes. I hope it's okay if I mention this, Valerie. A series of classes in the new year, which have to do with looking at your chart and understanding what energies in your chart need more support, and then giving you suggestions for how to do that. And that's the end of my presentation. So any thoughts or questions? What do you guys think about this idea of connecting with planets?
I love it. I just want to mention, again, Robin and I never talk before these events. We create our slides and our presentation separately, and we come together. And I just love that your ritual is about, you started out by saying, pick who you want to connect with, which is the same thing that I was saying in the automatic writing. Pick who pick what entity this is going to be for you. And also that you called it a 360 love review. And we talked about earlier, the card for Gemini is the Lovers. So that tied in there too. I love that. I just love how our energies and our presentations, even though completely separate, always seem to come together and play into each other. So I appreciate you, Robin. That's one of the ways that you are amazing and beautiful. And one of the reasons why I love you peer to peer. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, at some point I was like, should Valerie and I start connecting? And like, that would be like the quote unquote prepared, right? Responsible way to do it is to check in with each other. And I'm like, no, I think it's much cooler when we just like can see the overlaps between what's been given to both of us. And I really appreciate you, Valerie, because you're so welcoming and positive. And this group has been hugely healing to me, because as much as I hear my dad's voice that's like, don't share, don't tell anybody, having the chance to present these things and getting response from people and people saying that it helps them or asking questions is a very healing experience for me. So I'm grateful to all of you guys just even showing up and listening to me talk, because it would be hard for me to overstate like what a huge deal that's been, just to have somebody say, yes, your communication is good. That's been amazing for me.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Lisa said this is a nurturing group, and Lisa said that she thinks Mercury wants to connect with her. And Lisa also changed her name to Resident Gemini. I'm just now noticing that. I love
it. Yeah, Mercury would be a great planet to connect with because it rules Gemini. So this would be an excellent one. And you can also pick a planet that's associated with something you want to connect about. Like if you're like, I need help with relationships, you could pick Venus. Or if you're like, I need help feeling more abundance in my life, you could pick Jupiter. Or I need help figuring out how to handle my metaphysical communication, you could pick Neptune. Or you could do what I did this morning and just lie in bed and open up your mind and see what happens, and let the universe pick one for you.
Yes, Lisa.
Thank you, Valerie. It's a great session today. Thank you, ladies. So a couple of months or so ago, I think Mercury contacted me, but what didn't occur to me, I was thinking it was the archetype or the spirit. What didn't occur to me is that maybe it was the planet. And I'm like, oops. So after I talked with you this week, Robin, and then listening to your sessions today, I'm like, oh, There's a miscommunication right there.
Yeah, I think that everybody ends up with sort of a slightly different vision of when you say I connect with Mercury. For some people, that's the energies. I tend to interact with them as aspects of divine love. So for me, Mercury is the aspect of divine love that governs communication, mental activities, and business. But yeah, you can totally reach out to the actual planet itself, which is also a very interesting experience. I've done that too. So I feel like it's kind of, there's a wide range of ways to connect with these energies. And the important thing is to start out connecting with something that seems appealing to you. And then because it's a co-creative experience, if you do that, sometimes you end up getting visited by ones where you're like, that's not really what I had in mind, but maybe that's what I've needed. And there is a process of discernment where sometimes you can pull in energies. And I've thought I was talking to Mercury, and then I hear something I'm like, that doesn't sound very loving. And I'm like, is this still Mercury? And I hear a voice that's like, no, I'm not Mercury anymore. And I'm like, all right, please leave. I don't want to talk to you if you're not here for my highest good. So if you end up with communications that somehow don't quite sit right, feel free to be skeptical and ask for a better energy, because my experience is that even if you set protections, even if you set an intention, Spirit sometimes allows in other stray energies as a way of building our discernment and our ability to figure out what kind of energy is right for us.
Awesome.
Yep. And don't be afraid of Mars and Saturn, because they're also great. There's astrology trauma about fear of Mars and Saturn, but I think talking to them is also awesome.
Love it.
I always think of Holst, the composer, and the planets. And so I have the planet pieces committed to memory. So whenever I think of a planet, the music comes through. So I always just,
Oh, that's so neat. What composer is that?
Holst, Holst. He wrote pieces, classical pieces for each of the planets. It's an incredible series. He did this.
Why did I not know this?
Like 100 years ago or so. It's just absolutely fantastic. Great energy. So it might also then help you. I don't know, maybe Robin, you probably are familiar with the planets, Holst planets.
Yeah, I think they're amazing. I was totally going to second you in mentioning those. You can probably find them on YouTube. They're awesome.
Yeah. And I don't know, because of the energies, I'm not well versed in that. Maybe you could speak to whether or not it would be ideal to maybe play the music to help meditation, free writing, or any of that. So I'm just going to go mute now.
So I would say that would be a great thing to try. If that is like, ooh, that sounds really cool. You can't go wrong doing it. The only thing that will happen to you is as you'll play it, you'll be like, I don't know, this isn't really making me feel right. Or you might feel like you'd like to listen to the music beforehand, like, while you're doing dishes or folding laundry. But then when it comes time to meditate, you need some quiet. So I think that those sorts of things, like that music, it's exactly like moon water and crystals and tarot and all the other the modalities that we use, where some people are going to find that hugely beneficial, and for other people, either just this week or maybe in general, it's just not your cup of tea. But absolutely, I would check it out if you're excited by it. And Denise, is that you, Denise Johnson? Said my reading last week was great, and I just wanted to honor that and say thank you.
Yay.
I'm not sure who it is, but if it's
Denise. Speaking of readings, I want to mention both Robin and my contact information is in the chat, and we both offer year ahead readings, which means we'll give you a look at the year ahead. That's all I'm going to say about that. You can go to our sites to get specific information, because our readings are vastly different and I don't want to take up too much time speaking about them, but they are available to get a year ahead reading if that's what you're looking for. The other thing I want to mention, I'm going to keep showing it up because I'm just so proud of it. So this is actually one page, and I will continue. I'm pretty sure I can say, let me check with my guides, that I can continue to offer these worksheets as we come together for these rituals. So I'll change it for a new moon for the next time we come together. But the reason why I'm working on this is because I'm going to put together a complete moon journal, and that is going to happen. Pray for me, y'all, between now and the next time we get together for the new moon, because how I'm going to offer these is you're going to be able to order the January moon journal in December so that you have it for January, and so on and so forth. So my goal is, as I work through each of the months throughout 2022, and get that experience and figure out what works and what doesn't, what pages y'all like, what pages you don't like, then by the end of 2022, I will be working on a complete journal for the year ahead. So as we go through each one, they will be very low cost. And bonus, y'all are going to want to come to the next moon ceremony where I will have the moon journal, fingers crossed, available for purchase. Because if you come, I will give you 50% off. Everyone else, when it goes public, is going to have to pay full price. But you'll need to be present because I'm going to give the coupon code during the event and I'm not going to post it anywhere else. So that's what's in the works for me as far as these moon ceremonies and going forward into 2022. We have I believe I've scheduled through January, so be sure to sign up for the next upcoming ones. And I believe that's all I have to share about what's coming up next for moon ceremonies. Robin, did you have any ceremonies? Moon celebrations. Robin, did you have anything else to share?
Not about the moon celebrations, but I do want to share about the classes we're working on.
Sure, go for it. You got some extra time tonight. Yes,
exactly, for the classes. So the plan is to have an astrology class on how to identify the planets in your chart that need energetic support. And then we're going to go through a series of classes about different ways to support the planets through rituals, through charity, through crystals, through making jewelry, through all kinds of other stuff. And we're really bringing back, like back in the day, astrology and medicine were very close together. And so if you went to a doctor for a physical health problem, you would get not only a plant remedy or an exercise regimen or a surgery, but you would also get a bunch of astrology advice on how you could heal yourself. And in fact, the guy, you might have heard of the Hippocratic Oath. So Hippocrates is often thought as the father of modern medicine. And he has a quote that says, it says, a man who doesn't understand astrology has no right to consider himself a doctor.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I don't say that to say negative things about modern doctors, because modern doctors, medicine has diverged from astrology. But like if you went to an actual doctor and the doctor said, well, you have cancer, and that's all, you'd be like, that's not very helpful. What am I going to do? Right. But a lot of times when you look at astrology, it's like, oh, well, you have childhood trauma because you have the Saturn in the 4th house. Well, but what do I do? How do I fix that, right? You're struggling with your boss because you have a moon Saturn opposition. Okay, I guess, but there are a lot of ancient techniques where astrologers actually had really valuable advice for how to resolve these challenges. And so that's really what we're going to bring back. Maybe part of bringing back the remedial aspect, not just using astrology to tell you what the problem is, but using astrology to actually give you something you can do to help fix it. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be.
I'm excited too.
I know.
I want to share a little bit what we talked about when we talked about how do you find out which energies support yourself. For instance, we were talking specifically about jewelry. Robin and I were talking about jewelry. And if Robin had been like, hey, here's this bracelet I made that's all about Sagittarius energy. I'm a Sagittarian. I might be like, oh yeah, I want that. But that's not going to benefit me because I am a Sagittarius. Yeah, Sagittarian is in my DNA. That's how much of a Sagittarian I am. It's what I'm all about. So I don't necessarily need that energy, magnified in my life. However, I also have Virgo as an ascending sign. And y'all know me, I'm like, maybe I need a little bit of that Virgo grounding energy to balance me out. And that would benefit me to have, that's why I wear tiger eye at all times to keep me grounded. So pulling that Virgo energy, like in the form of a bracelet, but being able to look at your chart and see that is what we're going to be discussing. And I'm so excited about that because Robin is going to help us figure out our chart and figure out where we do need to balance, what we can pull in to balance out what's going on with us personally. So yeah.
Yeah, this was a real game changer for me. And what I learned is that we're all drawn to the energies that manifest themselves easily in our chart. But the point of having a chart is that you can see what doesn't manifest itself so easily. And that has to do with those free will choices that we make to bring in balancing energy. And it's very helpful for the idea of not getting run away with by your gifts. It's like, Valerie has this great exploratory energy, but the important thing is to balance that out with the grounding energy so that the exploratory energy doesn't take over and become chaotic. And so everybody,
because it has before, let me tell
you. Most of us can look at that and we're like, oh man, I just did the thing I was good at so much that it kind of took over everything. And so, Anyway, so that's starting probably in January. We'll be.
Yeah, I think
hopefully
we'll get it on the calendar. So be on the lookout for that.
Right.
All right. And as always, you have both of our emails. If you need to get in touch with us with suggestions or ideas, we are always open to suggestion, especially if you're just like, I can't figure this out. I love you guys' teaching style. Can you tell me how this works or how that works? Please reach out to us by email so we can get something on the calendar that's going to be relevant for this group. All right.